Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's DAF. Bava Kamma Kuftes Vav. We are 3 lines off the top. Itmar, Ganav, Umochar. In yesterday's DAF, we learned about something called Takanas Hashuk. The Chachamim wanted to ensure that one who engages in commerce in the marketplace will have that security and confidence that it won't be discovered one day that the item that he purchased was really a stolen item and it will be extracted from him. So to allay those fears, we have Takanas Hashuk. You buy an item, even if it's discovered to be a stolen item, you have the right to demand that the owner of that item compensates you for it, refunds you for it, before he takes it from you. Now, in the coming piece of Gemara, we will learn when exactly do we apply, under what circumstances do we activate this special takana, which grants the purchaser these special rights to get refunded, and when we do not apply this concept. Okay, Itma we have learned. Ganav umachar. Reuven owned an item, Shimon stole it, and sold it to Levi. Now, here's something interesting. We discovered, we found the Ganav. We uncovered the identity of the Ganav. So the question is, do we apply Takanas Hashuk or not? Let's see. Rav Mishmed Rab Chia Amar Hadin Im Harishon. The din, Rashi says, meaning the claim. Who does the owner go after? Who does he deal with? Hadinim Harishon. He deals with the Ganav. You stole the item. I caught you. You pay me back. You cannot go to the loikeyach and demand your item back for free. Right? Now, why would you say that? So Rashi explains, because here perhaps it's different. The loikeyach, Levi, knows that Shimon is a Ganav. So why can't he deal with Shimon? Let him go get his money back from Shimon. We don't say that. That's Rav's opinion. Rav Mishmed Rab Chia Amar, Rav quotes his uncle Rab Chia, Hadin Marishon, the owner has to deal with the Ganav himself. Rabbi Yehuda Mishmed Rab Yani Amar no, Hadinim Hasheni. In this case, where Levi can go after the Ganav and get back his money, we all know that he's the Ganav. So now the owner doesn't have to trouble himself to do that. He doesn't have to refund the buyer. He can just take his item back and have Levi refund himself by going after Shimon. Hadinim Hasheni, his claim is upon Levi. Amar Rav Yosef Pligi, really? There is no machlekes between Rav and Rabbi Yechanan. It all depends on what happened. Kan lifnei yush. If the owner had not yet given up hope for retrieving his item when Levi purchased the item, then the owner can go after Levi and get his item back free of charge. Right? So kan lifnei yush, hadinim hasheni. He can deal with Levi directly. Kan la'achar yush. But if he already gave up hope, he was miyayish, hadinim harishon. He can't go after Levi, rather he'll go after the Ganav himself. V'tarvayu, and both opinions is Luder Rav Chizda, follow Rav Chizda, which we learned back in the beginning of the parak, that if it's before Yush and the Ganav took the item and passed it on, let's say it was stolen by the next person, Levi stole it from Shimon, who stole from Reuben, and likewise now a case where it was given over to Levi as a, in the context of a sale, doesn't matter. The owner can go after either one, the Ganav or the purchaser, the first Ganav or the second Ganav. And that's only because it's pre-Yush. And all agree to that. But if it's after Yush, there, says Rav, no, you deal with the Ganav directly, not with the purchaser. Amaliyah by response. V'lei pligi, there is no machlekes here. It's just a question of circumstance. Here comes a kasha. Hamatonis kahuna. The portions which a person typically separates from a slaughtered animal, not a carbon, a chulin animal. It's called the zroya, the forearm, the chayayim, the cave. A cave is one of the stomachs. So those matanis kuna k'lifnei yush dami. It's always before yush, meaning there's no specific owner, no kayin that just gives up on it, that abandons his rights. So it's always in a state of pre-yush, upligi, and we still have the same machlekes. Meaning, we find that Rav only allows the owner to go after the ganav, rather than the fellow who has the item, even though it's before yush. Okay, it's not. We have a mission. A customer walks into a butcher store. Please sell me the stomach area of the para. In which we have the keva, which is meant for the kohen. He buys it all as one package. He has to give the keva to the kohen. He cannot get a discount. He can't deduct it from the price. Rashi explains. We assume he didn't include that in the sale. It was never sold. It was always the kohen. But if he purchased by weight, it was sold by weight. So every ounce was paid for, including the keva. So nois la kohen, it's given to the kohen. In this case, he can deduct from the price because he charged him for it. He paid for it. Rav adds a new twist. When do we say that the buyer is at fault? If he weighed the material for himself, so he's the gazlan. But if the butcher is the one who weighed it for him, he did the maaseh gezela hadinim hatabach. The kohen can go after the tabach, the butcher. Why? It's pre-yush. And if it's pre-yush, why can't the owner go after the fellow who's holding the item too? Rav just meant to say also the butcher. He can go after the buyer who has the material and also after the butcher. Perhaps I would say, what's the point of pointing this out? I mean, the point is like this, because I would think that matanis kuna aren't things that you can steal. Rashi says there's so much belonging to the kayhanim, they're given to them. Hashem grants it to them. So there's no concept of stealing it. Wherever it is, it's in the kohen's possession, so to speak. So even if the tabach waited for the customer, perhaps even then I would say there's no act of gezela. The act of gezela is not attributed to the tabach. He didn't affect change. He didn't do anything. So the kohen will just go after the buyer who has the item. Kamashmon, the point is no. The tabach took part in the act. He's liable as well. Now, will Abaye damar pliki? Abaye held that there was a machlekes between Rav and Rabbi Yehuda in a case where the ganav passed on the item to a customer, unwitting customer. Rav says the owner can only attack the ganav, and Rabbi Yehuda says no, you go after the buyer. And Abaye says there's a machlekes. Abaye damar pliki b'may pliki. What's the point of the machlekes? But the Rav Chisda, who's speaking that it's before yush. Do we hold the Rav Chisda or not? Rav Chisda was the one who told us that if the stolen item was passed on, was stolen by a new ganav, owner has a choice of options. You can go after the first ganav, after the second ganav, in our case, after the first ganav or the buyer. And that's the machlekes. Do we hold to that or not? Rav says no. Once it's passed on, it's too late. You only go after the ganav. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Rav Zuda Amar have another explanation to the machlekes. The owner did give up hope of ever retrieving his item, but that occurrence took place while in the hands of the purchaser. It was already sold. But yush was not committed when the item was still in the possession of Shimon the Ganav. The machlekes is like this. In this situation, do we say that the customer acquires it? We have that combination. Yush with Shini Rishus, change of hands, but it wasn't in the right sequence. First it changed hands, and then there was Yush. Does it work or not? That's the machlekes. Mar Savar Yush, v'acharkach Shini Rishus Kani. If it's first yush and then change of possession, it works. But not the reverse. And therefore, go after the customer. The other shita says, yush and shina rishus, in whichever sequence it works, customer gets it, it belongs to him. You can only chase after the ganav. Rav Papa Amar, you know what? We're speaking before yush. And the machlekes is like this. All agree that the gleam of the garment, just an expression, meaning the item, the stolen item, certainly goes back lamari to the owner. There's no question. It goes back free of charge. Why? Rav Chizda's halacha. The owner can pursue the ganav, can pursue the person who's in possession of his item. That's agreed. The question just is whether how the customer is going to deal with this. Can the customer demand that the owner pay him up? Or is his claim squarely on the ganav only? Right? That takanas hashuk, as we explained before, to ensure smooth, transactions, without concerns of, being caught with stolen items. So that allows for the buyer to demand compensation from the owner. That's the machlekes. Do we say that in this case or not? Rav holds hadinu harisha. We're talking about the customer now. He can turn around and only demand payment from the ganav. Rishon means the ganav, the first fellow involved. Dina de leikeach de lishkol zuzim ganav. The halacha is he can take money from the ganav. He can only demand payment from the ganav. What did you do to him? He sold me a stolen item, but he can't go back to the owner and demand compensation. There's no takanas hashuk. The Gemara soon will explain why, because he knows where the ganav is. It's been discovered. He's been nailed. Why don't you just go back to the ganav? Rabbi Yehuda Mishum de Rabbi Yani Amar, he says no. Hadinu Hasheni. What does that mean? Dina de leikeach. Where does the customer get his refund? The lishkol mi bala bayis. The halacha is he goes back to the owner. He's called Sheni for some reason because he's the second one on the scene. The Ravid explains that it was sitting by the customer. The owner just came now. He's like the newcomer. Okay, so we call him Sheni, and basically the owner has to compensate the buyer. Dina de leikeach. The lishkol mi bala bayis. V'asa b'takanas hashuk. We applied takanas hashuk. Even in this case, where we discovered the identity of the ganav. So Rav doesn't hold of takanas hashuk. The owner doesn't have to compensate the customer. We know Rav Huna was the Talmud of Rav, right? And there was a very interesting fellow called Chanan Bisha. We had him in the past. He used to embarrass people. The Chanan Bisha, what did he do this time? Ganav glima, he stole a garment. And he sold it. Also committed Rav Huna. Owner comes complaining to Rav Huna. Amalei Lo Gabri tells the person, Zil Shari Avita, go redeem your mashka and your collateral. Just an expression meaning you have to refund the buyer, and that's how you'll get it back. Takanas hashuk, right? Says the Gemara. And hold it here. Right, the Gemara understood that. The reason why Rav did not hold of takanas hashuk was because here it's different than the Mishnah. Here we have hu kara ganav. We know who the ganav is, right? We know he's a known criminal. So the lekeach should go seek compensation from the ganav, who's proved as a proven criminal, has been discovered as being a ganav. So there we don't apply takanas hashuk. And the question was, but 1 second, Rav Huna's psak, Rav Huna was a Talmud of Rav's, his psak contradicts this point because here we have Chanan Bisha. No, he was discovered as the ganav, identity known, and still Rav Huna tells the owner, 1 second, takanas hashuk, you have to go refund the buyer, the innocent buyer. Well, Shanin Chanan Bisha. Here it's different. This fellow is different. Given the lekla shlomi minei, there's no way to get money out of him. Yeah, tough fellow. Kilahu kar ganav dami. You know, it's as though we never discovered the ganav. Basically, the buyer has no recourse, and therefore we go back to the basic halacha where Takanas Hashuk dictates the terms. Amar Rava. Here comes another exception. Im ganav meforsam hu lo yasa b'Takanas Hashuk. If the lekeach purchased from a known ganav, forget about Takanas Hashuk. You shouldn't have ran the risk of buying stuff from him. Everybody knows that, What do you mean? V'chanan bisha meforsam hava. What happened to the story of Chanan Bisha was known to be, less than honorable fellow. Meforsam hava v'asa b'Takanas Hashuk. And still we see that we apply the Takanas Hashuk. Says the Gemara Nehidim Meforsam Bishusa. It's true that he was known for his antics and inappropriate behavior, but he wasn't a known robber. So therefore, we apply Takanas Hashuk. Itmar Ganav upara b'chayvay. Shimon steals Reuven's item, but instead of selling it, he uses the item to repay a loan that he borrowed from the bank. Now, let's realize something. This isn't your standard Takanas Hashuk situation, because the bank did not lend him money knowing that they're going to get this stolen car from him. That wasn't their, plan. So here it's different than a person that walks into a store and buys something, puts his money on this item, thinking that it's secure, it's safe, turns out that it was stolen. There we have Takanas Hashuk, but in our case, not. So even though the Ganav used the item to repay his loan, or Ganav Apara Be'Kefa used the stolen item to pay back, credit at the store, well, also by Takanas Hashuk, we don't apply this idea. Because we tell the merchant, look, when you gave him that money or the merchandise, it wasn't with respect to this item. You weren't expecting this thing in return. So you're very different than a buyer who spends money for this item. We want to keep him safe and secure. But here it's different. And therefore, the owner has the right to just extract his item and go home. Mashkanta. What about, interesting case, what about a mashkin, a collateral? He borrows money and places the stolen item puts it up as a mashkin. Do we apply Takanas Hashuk if it's discovered to be stolen? What happens to the, right? It depends. Shavi masan b'meya. If the item is worth $200 and it was used as a mashkin for a $100 loan, that's usual. Also by Takanas Hashuk. So then we apply Takanas Hashuk and the malva is safe. What about shava b'shava? Item worth 100 for a loan worth 100. We don't do that. You know why? Because typically you don't do that. The bank will never lend, 100% of the value of the property value. They're not interested in foreclosing and all associated hardships and expenses. So typically you only lend up to a certain percentage of that collateral. That's usual. That's standard practice. But if it's shava b'shava, it says no Takanas Hashuk. Apparently, the loan was not dependent on the property, on the item, because otherwise you wouldn't be, tying it together. Mazutru Amar, also by Takanas Hashuk, even in this case. So they made an exception. They gave him extra, credit, but ultimately they were relying on this item. So it's just like a purchaser buys an item thinking that it's safe and secure. Takanas Hashuk applies. V'hilchasa also by Takanas Hashuk. Zvina shava b'shava. Let's say he sells, the item for its actual worth. Also, okay, so the buyer who put his money on this item gets the privilege of Takanas Hashuk. What about Shava Mana b'Masam? The fellow bought this $100 item and paid $200. Rav Sheshes Amar Loy also by Takanas Hashuk. Skip Takanas Hashuk. You know why? Because why'd you overpay? Apparently you were just trying to give him a gift. This was an alibi to give him money, to give him a gift. It wasn't really a true purchase, and therefore it's inapplicable. Rav Amar, no, even in this case, sometimes people overpay, but it was a legitimate transaction. Also by Takanas Hashuk. Vilchasa, what's the conclusion? Bekulu, in all these disputes, we say also by Takanas Hashuk. Levar except Meganav Apara B'Chayvay, Ganav Apara B'Kefay, when he used it to pay up his debt, etc., where the transaction was unrelated to this item, there's no Takanas Hashuk privilege. Says the Gemara a story involving Avimi Bar Nazi, who was a father-in-law of Ravina, Chamod Ravina Hava. So a fellow owed him $4. Ganav Glima, the fellow stole an item, Asyan Ale, and brought it to him. So he took the coat, took the garment, and used it to repay part of his loan. Apparently the beggar was worth more than just 4. So he used that as further collateral for the next loan. So basically this garment served 2 purposes. A, it repaid the first loan, and B, security for the second loan. Turns out, we found the ganav, it was a stolen item. Also, so the creditor comes to Ravina. What could I do? Could I demand refund for this garment before I give it up? Omar, he says like this. You're dealing with 2 separate phases, 2 separate halachas. Kamoi, the first 4 coins, ganav apar bechayvai. There you're not entitled because the ganav borrowed. Then a month later he came and repaid you with this garment. So the loan was not related to this garment. You weren't relying on it when you lent him the money, so you're not entitled to takanas hashuk. The owner doesn't have to compensate you for that. But hanach arba zuzi achrini, for the second 4, there it's different because you lent it to him because you had this mashka, so it was related to this item. Shekol zuzach v'adar glimi. You're entitled to your 4 coins, and then you return the item. Maskeflo, here comes a kasha from Rav Kohen, interesting name, Rav Kohen. V'dilma glima b'ani zuzi kamaya b'ni alei. Who says maybe the garment was given to this fellow on account of the first 4 coins to repay the first loan. So that's ganav upara b'chayvay. Okay, right? That constitutes ganav upara b'chayvay. Ganav upara b'kefay, where he just took a random item and used it to repay a loan or credit. So it's unrelated to the transaction. There's no entitlement to takanas hashuk. Okay, I understand. But likewise, the second 4 coins, v'arba zuzi basroi, the second 4, who says it's related to this coat? Hemuni hemne. Maybe he just lent it to him out of trust. He didn't explicitly say that this is going to be a mashkoin. Just like the first time he lent him money without a mashkoin. So who says it's related to the item, and who says he's entitled to takanas hashuk? So he challenged the halach. No, Igalgal Musa Motel coming to Ravo. It turns out that the question was posed to Ravo. Amar, and he said, yeah, he's got a point. That he loses the entire beged. Narsha, it was a fellow of Norash, it was a crooked fellow. Ganav Safra, he stole a sefer. Zavne lePapuna, sold it to a fellow from Papuna. Betamnon Zuzi for 80 zuz, okay, $80. Azal Papuna, this fellow turned around and unwittingly sold it. He was a businessman, sold it to the next fellow for a profit. Zavna lebar Mechayza, a fellow from Mechayza, but may have asked him for 120 zuzi. Okay, so the Ganav stole it free of charge, sent it off to the next customer for 80, who sent it off to the next customer for 120. Ganav, it turns out that the police arrested the Ganav. Amar Abai says like this. Lazy Murray the Safra, the owner goes ahead. So it goes to the last person on the chain, to the bar mechayza, and he gives him how much? Tamnon zuzi, 80. V'shakal safri, and retrieves his item. V'azal bar mechayza, v'shakal arbain mapapuna. And the bar mechayza goes back to the previous, the middleman, right? So Reuben stole the item, sold it to Shimon for 80, who sold it to Levi for 120. So the owner retrieves his item from Levi, only gives him 80, because Levi has the ability to go back to Shimon and get 40. Because remember, Shimon made $40 on the deal, which should be returned. So according to Abaye, the owner has it easy. He just runs to Levi, grabs the item, pays him 80. Doesn't have to give him 120, despite the fact that he spent 120. It doesn't matter, because Levi is obligated to go back to Shimon and retrieve the extra 40 that Shimon made on the deal. Maskav Rava, why are you saying that? What happened to Takanas Hashuk? Levi's entitled to the full amount that he paid for it. Let the owner haggle with everybody else. Hashta lekech miganav. Also by takanas hashuk, even a person who buys from a ganav, right? First purchaser from a ganav, he's entitled to takanas hashuk, full compensation. Lekech miboya. Here, Levi, who's the lekech from Shimon, who himself was not a ganav, it's even one step removed. Certainly, we give him these privileges. Elam Rabba says, Rabba, the proper approach is like this. Leizl Mari the Safra, the owner should go ahead. He should pay up the bar machayza, the last one on list, Levi, 120. Price paid. Right? Whatever he spent, he gets back. V'shakol Safra, and that allows him to get back his safer. But Leizl Mari the Safra. Now the owner should go ahead and work it out with the other fellows. Should take 40 from the pop of the fellow, the middle guy who made 40 on the deal. V'tamim, not sure, the 80 from the first ganav. So he gets back his 120. Okay, bottom line is, we learned about takanas hashuk to ensure, smooth running of business. When do we apply takanas hashuk? When don't we apply? We have a whole sugya. And the bottom line is, it's about fairness, about reliability and security, which the Chachamim we're concerned about. Says the Gemara, Zeba b'chavisoi v'shal yayin. V'zeba b'kadesh al dvash. Two fellows on the road. He has a barrel of wine. He has a bucket of honey. Honey was worth way more. It was Erev Rosh Hashanah, precious commodity. Turns out there was an accident. The honey guy got into an accident. Nistiga chavish al dvash. So the honey barrel got damaged, and it's trickling out. The wine fellow understands. It makes more sense to salvage the honey. So what does he do? He spills out his wine, volunteers to spill out his wine, and salvages the honey in his container. He can't demand anything more than just minimum wage. Rashi says, schar kli, schar pu'ula. Time spent and, value of the container. Unless he stipulates otherwise, right? But if Amar Atzal Shalcha, they're standing in the middle of the road stuck, and he says, look, deal, I'll salvage your honey on condition you'll fully pay me for the wine. In this case, he has to pay him. Another example with donkeys. Shataf nar nachal. So a stream came and flooded, swept away his donkey and his friend's donkey. Now, Shalo Yafeman, Reuben's donkey is only worth 100, but Shalchaver Masayim, Shimon is 200. Instead of saving his own donkey, he goes and saves the expensive donkey. He forewent, he gave up the option of stealing, of salvaging his own property. Instead, he went for his friends. Once again, he only gets his wages. But if he stipulated a chatchila, look, let's make a deal. I'll save your expensive donkey on condition they pay me for mine. In this case, asks the Gemara, let's go back to the wine. Why does he lose his wine unless he stipulates? Why does he lose it? He can tell Shimon, look, I understand you lost your honey. It was hefker. It was about to run into the street. It's hefker. So I could be zeicha from hefker. It's fully mine. If anything, it's mine, not yours. We have a similar halacha. A fellow was laden with barrels of wine, oil of rosh and shtabris, and he sees they're about to break. The wagon's about to overturn. He shouldn't seize the opportunity and say, "Whoa, 1 second. Let me make something on the deal. I want to make this wine, oil, into truma and maser. It's going to get lost anyway. May as well. I'll make a truma and maser. I'll pay reis. On produce that I have at home. You can't do that. If he said so, it's worthless. Because it's about to go li'ibu, it's about to get lost and destroyed. It has no value, it's not his, it's hefker. So why is our case different? Just like Rabbi Yehuda told us soon, in a different case. That was speaking with the akal, this sort of band, this sort of strap of the oil press. Korach haleh is wrapped around the barrel, holding it together. It's just dripping out, not really flowing and getting lost yet. Hachinami here as well, we're speaking that the honey isn't yet going to destruction. Isn't yet totally getting lost. It's just dripping out. You can, try to quickly get a kli, you can, try to work it out. So now, it's not yet hefker, and at most you can offer your services to be of assistance. And if you stipulate a good deal, you're good. Now, let's go back to this halacha. We mentioned the fellow who was trying to take advantage of the fact that he can make a truma and maser, and this way he can save money on the deal. It doesn't work. Vatanya, we have a brisa which indicates otherwise. Even if something is about to get destroyed, you can still apply truma and maser to it. Mishabah person's on the road. He's holding on a pouch of money. Va'anas connected, he's been confronted by a robber. He's about to lose the money. He should not seize that opportunity to benefit on the deal. I shouldn't say, look, I have some fruit at home which are maser sheni. I would like to transfer the kedusha on this money, which is anyways getting lost, right? Shouldn't be doing that. If you did it, okay, it works. Even though it's about to get lost and destroyed. He's about to lose it. How can he do that? Skin was speaking that it isn't necessarily getting lost. He has the ability to defend himself, fend off his attacker, and save his money. So it's still his, it still has value. Well, if so, so why shouldn't he do it? Why is it only like sort of a b'di'evet? Why shouldn't he make it into maser sheni money? With extra effort, he can fend off his attacker. So it isn't sure that he'll actually salvage his money. So therefore, l'chatchila, you shouldn't be turning it into maser sheni and perhaps causing them a loss. So bottom line is, when it's fully slated for loss, then you can't really apply it, to truma. You can't turn it into truma, into maser, etc. But if it's something, that involves, diminished value, Rashi calls it ktsas hefsed, right? If it's, dripping out, or if it's in danger of being robbed, etc. So in those situations, it still has value. You still retain ownership, but you should not l'chatchila be using it for truma. Really, when there's an element of hefsed, of loss, it's preferred not to turn it into truma, etc. Really, Vatanya, listen to this price. We have a Levi who was given barrels of wine or of oil for maser rishon. So it's that 10th which the farmer gave him, of which he has to separate a 10th of his 10th as truma as maser, truma from the maser, given to the kohen. That's his obligation. So the Levi gets up and he says like this: look, I have all these barrels which happen to have content which is tummy. He has this maser rishon from which trumas maser was not yet separated, so it's called tevel with respect to that, and it's tummy. He notices one barrel just cracked and the wine is about to run out, or it was exposed to the elements, in which case is a concern that perhaps a snake or some other inserted venom into the liquid. Basically useless, right? He can get up and say, Harezu, Hare, Trumas Maser. Guess what? This will be Trumas Maser. It's about to get, destroyed. Don't worry, it's Trumas Maser, and the rest. On the other 9, Al Teisha Chavraseh. So you can do that by wine. Lichatchila. Ubeshemen Layasakin, but not by oil. You see, by wine, there isn't much of loss going on here. There isn't much of a hefsed, because in any case, wine which is tummy is pretty much unsuitable. What are you going to do with tummy wine? So whether it's here or cracking, flowing away, poison, it doesn't matter. So you can use it as trumas maser, there's no issue. But ubeshem aliyasakein, hefsed kayin. But if it's oil that's tummy, and Rashi explains oil which is tummy can be used by the kayin, although not for personal consumption, but you can heat with it, you can light with it. So by using this barrel which is about to get lost and get destroyed, as Trumas master, you're basically giving the kayin something useless. B'Shem Alayasakin, you can use this one for the other ones, because he's causing a loss to the kayin. Right? So the shaila is, why is it permissible by wine? Ultimately there is some slight loss taking place as well. Rashi explains, because even if the yain is tummy, it can still, perhaps be used for rinsing down the dust at home, or to introduce a pleasant odor into the house. So even though you're not personally consuming it, there is some sort of benefit that can be gotten from it. So it's unfair to use. It should be unfair to use the barrel which is about to flow away and slate it for destruction. So how could it be permissible l'chatchila? There is some sort of loss taking place. He's triggering some sort of hefsed to the kayin by using this unsuitable barrel. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, oh, here comes the teretz. It's not really flowing away. Kisha akal beis habad karach aleh. You have this sort of strap that's holding together the barrel, so it's just dripping away. There's not much of a hefset going on here, and it's not even considered something of diminished value to the extent like the fellow on the road about to be robbed, where he can perhaps save himself with extra effort. It's not even on that level. We don't even consider it something that entails hefset, loss at all. It's almost fully there, it's just dripping out a little. It's okay. Well, that's regarding the case of the broken barrel. We had two cases. Okay, so we understand the broken barrel, it's being held together. Great. But an open barrel exposed to the venom of the snakes is totally unsuitable. And still the Brisa says you can use it as truma. So even though you're causing the kohen somewhat of a loss, because he technically can use this, wine. Even when it's tummy, you can use it for, like we said, for it's called ziluf, for washing down the dust, etc. And now he's giving him something totally unsuitable. It's galsa. It's poisonous. So how can we allow that l'chatchila? What's the point of you? How can one have any benefit from nizgalsa? Oh, maybe you can still use it for ziluf, right? To permeate that pleasant odor within the home by sprinkling it around. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, you're not meant to use poisonous liquids for that purpose as well. Mayim galu, exposed water. It should not be poured in the street. A person might walk on it and might get into his skin. It might be dangerous. Nor should he mix the mortar with it. Nor should he do rebuts, washing down the dust at home. You shouldn't even give it to the animal to drink, because he might shech the animal and be poisonous to the eater. No to his friend's animal. It's totally useless. Says the Gemara, there is a way out. You can bypass the venom by running it through a strainer. As Rabbi Nechemia proposes, the Sanya Misanenes Yesh Bo Mishum Gili. Rashi explains, it's a double-decker kli. So the upper one is a strainer, in which you put shmarim, the residue from the bottom of the barrel of wine. You run it through and then the wine trickles down to the bottom kli. The upper one is like a sieve, like a strainer. You leave the upper one exposed. Yesh bo mishum gili is a concern of gili. Snake might have drank and the venom is in there. Amar Nechemia, hold it. But when do we have a concern? When the bottom one is exposed, if the bottom one is fully covered by the strainer, it doesn't matter what's happening to the upper one. It's a strainer. It's going to strain out the venom. It's like discernible substance. Even though the upper one is not covered, there's no concern. You should know the venom of a snake, it's like a sponge, but it stays in its place. Right on top of the barrier, on top of the strainer. So here as well, the yayin megula can serve some purpose. Separate the venom and he can use it. Lav itmar Allah, but one second, haven't we learned on this halacha? Amar B'Seiman, Amar Shom Alevi, Lo Yishana, Lo Shlo Yitarka. When do we say we can separate the venom? When it wasn't, he didn't stir it, he didn't stir the liquid. He didn't mix it up. Avatarka also, but if we stirred it, it's all mixed in there. So how can you pour wine out of a barrel without stirring? Hasanami Efsha the Manach Midi, but there's still a way out. You can place a little cloth, Apum the Chavisa, on the opening of the barrel, and the Shafilin gently let out the liquid and leave the venom inside. Asks the Gemara, hold it. Rabbi Nechemia, right? That's whose shita we're following. Or Nechemia who says you can separate the venom. Well, we have another problem. Mitami, atami, mitarmina. All 10 barrels are tummy, as we said. How can you take one barrel tummy and make it trum on the other ones? Vatani, we have a brisa, termin and atami ala tummy. If everything is tummy, you can do one on the other. Everything is Torah, do one on the other. But you can't mix tummy, and you can even do Torah on tummy because you're giving him more than he really deserves. But if everything is Torah, why may not take an item which is tummy and make it trum on the rest? Even when they're all tummy, you can't take one tummy and apply it for the other tmeim. Lo yitir wasn't allowed l'treim ela b'shal d'mai, only if it's d'mai, if it's established tevel in need of truma master. You can't do tummy on tummy. The Parshim explained because basically you're creating truma which is tummy, which is not allowed. But if it's d'mai, what is this? It's an acronym referring to produce purchased from an unlearned fellow, nam aretz. So the status of this produce is questionable, and we have to fear the worst, that there was no truma masa separated. So it's an uncertain state. It's a suffix, but we're lenient about it. And here we allow tummy on tummy. So that's the only case. So how could he do the wine on the other wine if they're all tummy? We're speaking about the wine, so it's mutter. So when they're all wine, and one of them is about to be destroyed, you can quickly grab it and do the truma on the rest. Because in any case, wine which is tummy isn't really, doesn't really provide much benefit. But by oil, it's a different story. You can't take oil slated for destruction and make it truma on the oil which is sitting there, even though it's tummy, because oil which is tummy can still be used. Very useful. And that's the Gemara coming up. Because you're causing the kind of loss. You should be giving in real oil, which you'll have, instead of oil which is about to be destroyed. Why is shemen beneficial? How could he benefit from it? Because you can use it for lighting, for burning. Well, here comes the kasha. What about wine? You can use it for ziluf. Perhaps that's not considered a benefit. Sprinkling your wine. Hamar Shmuel, oh no, it's a very expensive delicacy. Hamar Shmuel, Mishmar Bechia, Shoysin milug b'sela. You're to spend a sela, $1 to buy a lug of wine for drinking. But when it comes to ziluf, you should be willing to spend way more. Mazalfen milug b'shtayim. Spend double for the lug for ziluf. Pleasant aroma. It's good. It's shmak. Right? Rashi called Hanoi Serohi. Apparently, that has value. We're speaking about fresh wine, new wine, which doesn't have that aroma, doesn't have that, function. You can age it. The coin can hold on to it until it becomes suitable for this type of function. You're not meant to keep tummy wine around. You might drink it by mistake. So it's not really practical. Well, how could you leave tummy oil around for lighting purposes? You might drink it. He puts it into an unclean kli, which dissuades drinking. What about yain? You can put it into an unclean kli. Well, if he's saving it for ziluf, which is a very, finesse type of use. Why would he put? He wouldn't dare put it into a kli mos, so it's not practical. Now, v'takala atzmo tanoi. This point that you should not keep tamei wine around, yain truma, because of concern of takala, is really a machlekes tanaim. This sign, we have a brace. Chametz shel yain shel truma, right? Shenitnes, which got tamei. B'shama emrim tishevach mia hakoil, spill it all out. U'chayshish v'takala, if you leave it around, you might drink it. U'b'silemim tiasa ziluf, no, turn it for ziluf. We're not concerned about takala. Amar b'shmor b'yis yani achriya. I'll present a middle route, sort of a compromise. Depends where. Sometimes you leave it around, sometimes you spill it out. But bias, if it's at home, tiasa ziluf, use it for ziluf, reserve it for that purpose. U'b'salat tishevach hakoil, but if it's out in the field, hasn't yet been delivered, spill it out. Because by the time you make it back home on the road, you might get thirsty, you might drink it. Ikadami is another version of this compromise. Depends if it's fresh wine or not. B'yoshem tells us ziluf. If it's old wine full of aroma, use it for ziluf. Ubechadash, if it's fresh wine, which needs to be kept around for a while until it gets, to that point where it can do ziluf, then there's a concern of drinking to shafach hakol. So he sought to make a compromise, which typically works, meaning usually we follow the shita which compromises. But here it's different. Amalei the Chacham responded to him, no. Ein achra, in this case, a compromise which is achra shlishis, it's a brand new element, achras, that can't tilt the scale. What that means is like this. Typically, you have one shita, say, which says 100. The other one says 50. And I say, 75, that's a compromise. But here, nobody, not Beis Shammai or Beis Hillel, indicated there's any distinction between house, field, new wine, old wine. Beis Shammai say there's always a concern, Beis Hillel say never a concern. So when Shmuel Yossi introduces this new concept, I want to make a distinction between where it is and what it is. That's a brand new element. He's introducing a totally new avenue of approach. So there, we don't say it's achra, and we don't paskin like the machriya. Typically, we paskin like Beis Hillel. Okay, let's briefly recap today's daf. We learned about the idea of takanas hashuk to protect the buyers out in the market, but that's only when he, relied and put his money on this item. But if it was just repaid to him for a loan, etc., there's no takanas hashuk. If it's a famous ganav, he shouldn't be getting involved. There's no takanas hashuk there as well. We had a story with the wine and the honey. They made a deal, then he's responsible. Otherwise, he has no more claim other than just schare, plain, schar pula and schar kli. Something which is totally going li'ibud, slated for full destruction, is considered hefker, but otherwise, you still consider the owner. But you should not make it into truma. And then we went into the discussion about when and when not ziluf is appropriate by truma material. All the best to you, and atzlacha rabbah.